Hello everyone, Dark Xander here, owner of FurrTrax. I thought I'd just do a quick video to give my view on a few things, recent events mostly. First up, Fur Affinity and their DOS attack nightmare situation that they seem to be dealing with. I actually extended my own offer of help to them to mitigate the DOS during the attack, and even afterwards, giving them options and methods that can be used to mitigate an attack or even just dampen the effect to keep a site online even if it is lagging. However, they seem to believe they know better than everyone else and have refused the outside help of myself and another network engineer I know, who have both offered help. So far they seem to be doing their own thing and assuming they know security best. And, well, if they did, we wouldn't be in this situation in the first place. They jumped onto Cloudflare, which is a CDN network. Basically, it has caching and defense against a lot of attacks, but even Cloudflare can't protect them because it's just a proxy. Their IP address of their server is still separate. They're not actually on Cloudflare. All somebody has to do is use an injection or some other exploit to the website and find out their server's real IP address, which is honestly not that hard. And then the same DOS attack, or even a much weaker one, directed solely at that IP address, could essentially take them down again. And Dragoneer seems to be bent on going to what he calls the cloud distributed computing. I guess that's what he mentioned in a message. While that can help mitigate their problems, based on what I've seen of their infrastructure and the way their site is built, that's not going to happen anytime soon. Their system doesn't seem to be built to run in a parallelized environment. Basically, where the same, or a group of servers are all doing the same processes. And that's the way the cloud works, so my guess is they're going to have to change quite a bit of things around and rebuild a lot of their code base to be able to actually implement on a cloud solution, unless they choose some kind of a virtualized solution that still runs a singular OS. And even then, that eliminates a lot of the benefits the cloud can provide. But they don't want anybody else's input but their own, other than taking donations of, last I heard, $18,000 with no clear indication of what their direction is. Kind of discouraging that they're not asking for help or not even accepting help or saying thanks, but we've got it. Nothing. They just assume they know what they're doing, so kind of discouraging. Tried to help. My help was, however, accepted from the Arizona Furries group. Not the group, the actual website, Arizona Furs. The admin there actually extended a request, and I helped him out with some security testing and providing basically the DOS defense mechanism that I offered to Fur Affinity. We'll see how it holds up for them. I know they did experience some form of flaw or attack at some point, but I don't think they were part of the Fur Affinity attack. Let's see, what else did I want to talk about? Alright, groups. I am very surprised and a little bit shocked at how many people have jumped on top of the groups feature on FurrTrax. It's been a long time coming. Unfortunately, it got backburnered because when I decided to develop it, a lot of the other features were not really set up to accept groups and be able to work with them. So in the background, I had to do a whole bunch of just code fixes and adjustments to make groups possible in FurrTrax. I actually started the process probably about 6 months ago, worked on it some, and then realized where the essential problems were going to be with compatibility. And backburnered for a few months, but then I got back on it, and now it's all up and running again. It has some quirks here or there, one I fixed earlier where it would allow you to post super astronomically large pictures and distort the page. I had to set a width limit on that, but you can click to enlarge now as well. I'm sure we'll find some other bugs with it sooner or later. It's a new feature, and new features always have bugs, even if I write the code for them. Also in groups, I'm not going to mention exactly what was said in the group, but we're talking about the, let's see, don't even remember the name of it, honestly. The Dark Emos group. So I deleted a mass amount of comments in here that were, suffice to say, horribly disgusting, very illegal as far as if these were ever committed in real life, and I'll leave it at that. Just because you make a group for yourself or for your people who believe the same way, whatever the case may be, does not mean that you can post stuff that is horribly, extremely vulgar. Examples would be, I don't know, rape and murder like this one involved. Not just those two, though. Anything explicitly, stupidly sexual. Anything nasty-wise in the form of porn. Just don't do it, guys. That's what the private chats are for. That's what private messaging is for. I don't care what the hell you talk about in those two items, as long as it's not mass destruction of the earth or any particular country. Keep it in the private areas. Okay, as for security, we definitely had some security issues that I had to work on. I have been doing so. I actually hired an outside firm, some of you may have noticed. Beyond security. Doesn't show much on this report, but on the actual report that you can log into, which is actually posted in the gallery. I don't know how many of you saw it or didn't. Oh yes. For those who do or don't know, this is my new rifle. Yes, I am a gun-toting redneck. There we are. Okay, so basically this reports that I have. This first report was before I fixed up the bugs. One person commented that why did I erase this section here in Medium? It's simple. I was going to post the picture publicly, and I did not want to advertise to every single hacker in the world what vulnerabilities I had in the Medium class, because one of them in particular was a severe oversight, and I will admit that, and it has since been fixed. Just basically a screenshot of the entire page right there. They scored us an 81, but with that first vulnerability that was listed there, I'm actually surprised they scored us that high, honestly. The same day, I believe, I think I did the same day. Yep, same day, because I code that fast. I fixed as many of the exploits as I could. These ones really don't matter much. They're more annoyance related and minor things like being able to tell what time the server is currently using, and the trace method. It's stuff that's very, very unusual to be used, and it's very, very hard to use to do any effect on the server actually. But all the Medium stuff fixed, and actually they did not find a lot of the more simplistic exploits and cross-site scripting errors, XSS if you're not familiar with the acronym. I actually had an outside researcher based in Russia do a lot of security testing, particular with SQL map as well. Basically, I gave him a login account and had him beat the tar out of the server with everything he had, using SQL map and a couple of other tools. That was the day when the status updates page here went completely batshit. There was an SQL injection in the shout box here. Well, not an SQL injection so much as just a flood exploit. You couldn't do anything to the database, but you could flood it. And he essentially flooded the entire status updates with hundreds, if not thousands, of random character bullshit entries as it tried to use that box to essentially gain root on the server and many other things. All of which failed, thankfully. Security wasn't bad on that box, just had to tidy it up for flooding. The other thing that was exploitable was, where was it? The chat room. There was the same vulnerability, essentially a flood exploit. It's all gone now, but basically, a lot of you may have noticed that when you went into the chat rooms on that particular day shortly after I did the posting of those screenshots, most of the chat rooms had just miles of random code SQL comments with symbols and whatnot. Hard to explain exactly what it all was, but it was essentially SQL map found a flood and tried to use it to, once again, hack the database. It failed, but it made a royal mess out of all of the chat rooms, probably all the private chat rooms, and that was before group rooms, so they were unaffected. They did not exist yet. As for, somebody made a comment about, will we ever be able to post images to the chat room from our gallery on our phones? And I'm assuming he was talking about an Android phone, although it doesn't really matter. Yes, I am thinking about ways to implement that. One of the ones that is leading the battle, should say, would be to simply add a button here that links you to your profile pictures. Basically, your ability to attach stuff to the gallery. So basically, it would take you to this page. However, there would be an extra button here that would say post to chat room, and it would automatically insert the picture into whatever chat room you happened to have come from, and then bounce you into that chat room automatically afterward. In theory, that feature should only take a short time to develop, but I am a bit busy right now and unable to do so, but that is the plan. And then you'd be able to almost seamlessly post pictures to the chat room with an upload function instead of just having to link URLs. A lot of you have also mentioned that when trying to upload pictures and stuff to the chat room, you get a warning of XSS violations. That would also be due to a similar issue. Your phone is putting the actual image data into that box instead of the URL. And when you submit it, the box doesn't know what all that gibberish code is, so it assumes you're trying to run an exploit and throws a violation at you. You do not need to worry about these violations. I know the difference between which ones are real and which ones are bogus. Just ignore them and learn to use URLs instead of posting image code in the actual box. Excuse me. Okay. As for security, a lot of people seem to be worried that people will be snooping on their connections and what they do online. Even Google has noticed this issue and has switched to SSL a while back. So, while I don't want to make FurrTrax exclusively SSL because a lot of people don't really care, for those who are paranoid or have reasons to be paranoid, there is a new feature. Some of you have been using it already. On the login page in both mobile and in the website, you simply click a button, switch to SSL secure mode. Your connection instantly changes, and you can see that it reflects you're in secure mode. 128-bit encryption is detected. And when you hit the login button, you're now 128-bit encrypted over SSL, essentially meaning anybody at the ISP level or anywhere else that's trying to track your connection, they will still be able to see you're visiting FurrTrax.com. However, what you're doing on that site, what URL you're on, what page you're viewing, what image you're downloading, essentially all of that, and what chat text you're typing, will be masked. It will be completely unreadable to them. So essentially they'll be able to see that you're on the site and have utterly no idea what you're doing. The only exception is some of the imagery does use the regular HTTP protocol, so they might occasionally see an image or two that you're using, but they won't see the vast majority of what you're doing. The problem, however, is a lot of mobile devices and other people just have slow connections. Notice in it, not a bad lag, but they notice a definite slowdown when they switch to SSL mode, just because a lot of computers, devices, mobile devices especially, are slower when they have to encrypt data coming in and going out between them and a website. So obviously, if you're not one of those people who has something to worry about, you don't really need to use it. You can use the regular mode, which is faster. Let's see, was there anything else I wanted to cover? Okay, a lot of people have been asking this. Why did I create FurrTrax? Complicated question, honestly. So rather than answer all of the reasons that have come up since I started the project, I'll just give the reason that started the project in the begin with. Some of you may remember a Android app called Yiffr, Y-F-F, or what is it? Y-I-F-F-R. Basically, some people referred to it as a grinder app for furries. Others said it was used for meetups, for finding GIF. People used it for all different things. It was a great idea. However, it was somewhat horribly implemented. The programmer who built it, no offense, dude, you do not know what security is, and you do not know what programming is, honestly. The app crashed quite frequently. Never bothered to find out why. But beyond that, it also was horribly insecure. The app used GPS to essentially tell people how far they were away from each other. The problem was, it stored everyone's GPS coordinates on everyone else's phones, even just in the temporary memory. So run a debug program with Yiffr running, and you would instantly have the GPS locations of every furry on the list. So anybody who wanted to stalk another furry that had Yiffr need only get them to pop up on the list, and they instantly knew where they were, if Yiffr was open on their phone. That's bad. Very bad. We don't need everybody knowing exactly where everybody else is, because there are evil people out there, stalkers. So I can see why he never continued updating the project. A lot of people realized how bad the security was in it, and just after it went a long time with no updates, a lot of his coding methods seemed to start crashing phones. So finally, people were using it enough that Google pulled it off of the market because of the security issues, and I think some other harassment issues as well that were being used by the app. Possibly, although it's not been reported, some stalking issues because of the GPS bug. But the app got pulled from the market, and then soon after the website for it died, and the last mention that I ever saw for it was the designer of the app said, "We will be coming back, we're going to do a redesign and see how things go," and that was the last word anybody ever heard from him. His Twitter account has been inactive for over a year, I believe. When his project died, when it got pulled off the market, I saw that basically there was no other app like that. And I kind of gathered from what I looked at in the app that he was unlikely to develop a new version in any rapid amount of time, and people seemed to flood the app because it was very popular. So I simply took the idea of the app and made it better. A lot better. And it started out as just an app to find other furries that were local in your area, using distance instead of GPS coordinates. The server handles all GPS tracking and never provides GPS coordinates to any other member. That way, even if they learn how to hack the app apart and decode everything, there's no GPS coordinates for them to find. There is no data usable to locate people other than state and distance. And even then, the distance field is randomized to an extent, so that if they circle your house, they can't pinpoint you. It'll come up with random numbers and they won't be able to tell which side of them you are on. Essentially, the app started there. It started as a mobile app, not as a website. And then features got added, requests came in, and I saw that it was growing quite rapidly. We had 2,500 members in the first few months. Just took off like lightning. So then I built the website and essentially turned the project from a mobile app into a social network. A lot more reasons to continue updating the project and continue adding features to it have come up. Some inspirations, and essentially people have also asked, well, where does it end? Where does FurrTrax stop? Where does it die off? Well, there is no master plan for the website, and that's part of why it's been successful. I get ideas for features, I see if people are interested in them, and then I implement them. There is no roadmap of what you'll see next year. There's no roadmap of what you'll see tomorrow. I am working on some new features, but some of them may or may not ever make it to the website, depending on how things work, how secure they can be, and just how much demand there is for them, period. Obviously, submit requests for features if you want to see something in particular. I think that about wraps it up. Hope you've enjoyed this. Hope it's been informational. Take care, everyone.